All right, let's dive into this AI impact assessment thing. It's from the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management.
Quite a mouthful, right?
It is, yeah. It's a pretty dense document.
But important stuff. It's basically like a guide for, well, anyone who's building AI systems, whether it's governments, companies, even individuals, really.
That's the idea, yeah. They want this to be applicable to pretty much everyone.
And it helps them make sure the AI they're building is, responsible, ethical, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
To avoid any unintended consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Unintended consequences, bias, all those things we worry about.
One thing that really jumped out at me was that this isn't just for, super complex AI.
Oh, yeah.
It's for all AI systems, even simple things, even a spam filter.
Exactly. Even something as simple as a spam filter can have unintended consequences when it's actually out there in the world.
Right, which is why they break it down into these risk categories.
Yeah.
Unacceptable, high, and minimal risk.
Yeah, that's right. And this comes from
the EU AI Act.
The EU's AI Act, which I know
we'll dig into that a bit later, yeah.
Yeah.
But basically
the idea is the higher the risk associated with the AI system, the stricter the rules it needs to follow.
Right. So you wouldn't hold a simple algorithm recommending movies, let's say, to the same standard as an AI system controlling a self-driving car.
Exactly. Totally different levels of potential impact.
And that leads into this idea of a multidisciplinary approach, which they really emphasize. It's not just a one-person job.
No, definitely not.
To assess the impact of AI, you need a whole team of people.
You need a team with diverse expertise, yeah.
So it's not just data scientists.
Not at all.
Huddled in a room, coding away.
Nope. You need legal experts, ethicists, data scientists, communication experts.
Wow.
It's the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. So you're saying it's important to have people who can look at it from all these different angles? Absolutely. Because each perspective can help catch potential problems that others might miss.
Yeah. When they talk about this idea of purpose over pizzazz, what do they mean by that?
That's a good one. It's all about being really intentional with AI. So just because you can use AI to do something doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
It's really making you analyze the problem you're trying to solve and asking yourself, is this really the most effective way to do this? Could I get the same results or even better results with a simpler approach? Maybe one that doesn't even involve AI.
So it's kind of like a reality check on all the AI hype. Making sure you're using it strategically and not just jumping on the bandwagon.
Exactly. They actually use the terms proportionality and subsidiarity.
Okay, break those down for me.
Sure. Proportionality means making sure your solution is appropriate for the scale of the problem. Don't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut, basically.
Okay. Right.
And subsidiarity is about considering if there are simpler alternatives, making sure that AI isn't unnecessarily complex. So sometimes the best AI solution is no AI at all.
Yeah, sometimes that's the case.
Interesting. And speaking of AI, let's talk about data, because they put a huge emphasis on data, quality, and privacy in this assessment.
Oh, absolutely. Data is the lifeblood of AI.
Right.
But it can also be a double-edged sword if you're not careful.
Yeah.
They really advocate for using what are called the FAIR principles.
FAIR principles.
Yeah.
What's that stand for?
It stands for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable.
Okay.
It's all about making sure the data used to train and operate AI systems is high quality, well documented, and ethically sourced.
So it's like quality control for data.
Yeah, you could think of it that way. Transparency and ethical considerations are key.
So it's not just about having a lot of data, it's about having the right data and using it responsibly.
Exactly. And that ties into the concept of accountability, which is another big focus in the assessment. They stress that it needs to be crystal clear who's responsible for each stage of an AI system's life cycle.
From building it to deploying it to maintaining it and even eventually shutting it down.
So it's like an organizational chart for the AI world.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Making sure there's a clear line of responsibility.
Right. So if something goes wrong or if someone's rights are impacted, we know exactly who to hold accountable.
That's important. Sounds like this document really wants to promote a sense of transparency and responsibility throughout the entire AI ecosystem.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
And speaking of accountability, they talk about how if an AI system is classified as high risk, there are even more stringent requirements.
Yeah, there are a lot more hoops to jump through.
So it's like getting your AI system a driver's license.
Exactly. It needs to pass a series of tests and meet specific standards to be deemed roadworthy, so to speak.
Okay. High risk, high scrutiny. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something that's been generating a lot of buzz lately. Generative AI. Tools like ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah, that's the hot topic right now.
It seems like everyone's talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also a lot of questions about their potential risks and how to regulate them. Does the AI impact assessment address this at all?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They actually have a whole appendix dedicated to generative AI. They acknowledge the potential, but also the unique challenges it brings up.
So they're not shying away from it. What kind of challenges are they talking about specifically?
Well, they highlight issues like explainability, accuracy, and even copyright.
Right.
Like with traditional AI, you can often trace a decision back to specific rules or algorithms.
Yeah.
But with generative AI, with these huge models, it's much harder to understand exactly how they get to their output.
It's like asking a magician to reveal their secrets. You see the amazing result, but the process is still a mystery.
Exactly. And that lack of transparency can be a big concern, especially when you're talking about things like unintended consequences or misuse. If we don't really understand how these systems work,
Right.
It's harder to predict and control their behavior.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I imagine that also makes it harder to establish accountability. Like if something goes wrong, who's responsible?
That's a big question. And it underscores the need for more research into things like explainable AI.
So it's not about shutting down generative AI entirely, but more about proceeding with caution.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Develop safeguards as the technology matures.
Right. They even mentioned that the Dutch government has issued a provisional guideline
Yeah, they did.
advising against using these tools for official purposes, at least for now.
For now, yeah.
Wow, so they're really taking a measure twice, cut once approach here.
Well, it's understandable, given the potential impact.
Right.
We're talking about systems that can generate realistic text, images, even code. The implications for cybersecurity, misinformation,
Oh, yeah.
all huge.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. So going back to the AI impact assessment as a whole, I'm curious about how these recommendations are actually put into practice.
Okay.
Is it just a set of guidelines? Or are there mechanisms for enforcement?
It's kind of both. The guide provides a framework for ethical and responsible AI development,
Right.
but it's up to individual organizations and developers to actually implement those recommendations.
Right.
But the EU AI Act, which we mentioned before,
Yeah.
that does have some legal teeth. It categorizes AI systems based on risk level and sets out specific requirements for high-risk applications.
So there is a legal framework there to make sure these guidelines aren't just suggestions.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's a two-pronged approach. Guidelines to encourage responsible development and regulations to enforce certain standards, especially for those high-risk applications.
You got it.
It's all about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Fostering innovation, but also making sure AI is used safely and ethically.
Absolutely. Create an environment where AI can flourish
Yeah.
while minimizing the potential harm.
Now, we've talked a lot about the potential risks of AI, but I want to switch gears for a moment and talk about the potential benefits. The document does mention the importance of using AI for good. Can you give us some concrete examples of how AI is being used to solve real-world problems?
Oh, there are tons of examples.
Yeah.
In healthcare, for instance, AI is being used to diagnose diseases earlier and more accurately,
Oh, wow.
to personalize treatment plans, even to accelerate drug discovery.
That's amazing.
In environmental conservation, AI is helping to track endangered species,
Really?
monitor deforestation, and optimize resource management.
That's incredible.
And in education, AI is being used to personalize learning experiences, provide real-time feedback, and make education more accessible to people around the world.
Those are some incredible applications. It really highlights the transformative potential of AI when it's used ethically and for the right purposes.
Exactly. It's about leveraging the power of AI to address some of the most pressing challenges facing humanity. The key is to ensure those benefits are shared widely and equitably, and that we don't worsen existing inequalities or create new ones.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just develop AI solutions.
Yeah.
We need to make sure those solutions are accessible and beneficial to everyone.
Absolutely. Not just a privileged few.
That's where concepts like fairness, transparency, and accountability come in.
Yeah.
It's about making sure AI is used to create a more just and equitable world,
Right.
not to reinforce existing power structures or deepen societal divisions. So it's like using AI to level the playing field, not tilt it further in one direction or another.
I like that analogy.
Now, I know we've only scratched the surface of this topic,
Yeah.
but what would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that AI isn't some distant futuristic concept. It's here now. It's already shaping our lives in profound ways.
Right.
And the Dutch AI impact assessment really highlights the need for all of us to think critically and have an informed conversation about how we want AI to be developed and used.
So it's not just a technical issue, it's a societal issue that requires input from all of us.
Exactly. It's about making sure AI reflects our values and serves our collective interests.
Yeah.
It's about shaping a future where AI empowers humanity, not diminishes it.
That's powerful. And it leads to another question that's been on my mind. How do we make sure those conversations happen? How do we educate the public about AI and empower them to participate in these discussions?
That's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But AI literacy is becoming more and more important.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure people understand the basics of AI, the potential benefits and risks, how it's being used in different sectors.
Yeah.
This could involve things like integrating AI education into school curriculums,
Okay.
offering public workshops and online resources, and encouraging open dialogue about AI in the media and popular culture.
It's almost like we need a new kind of literacy for the AI age.
I think you're right.
Just as we teach children about critical thinking and media literacy, we need to equip them with the skills to navigate a world that's increasingly shaped by AI.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one final point that the document raises: the importance of continuous monitoring and evaluation.
Right. That's crucial.
Can you talk a bit more about that?
Sure. Developing and deploying an AI system isn't a one-and-done deal.
Right.
The guide emphasizes the need for ongoing monitoring to ensure that the system is performing as intended,
Okay.
that it's not showing any unintended bias, and that its impact aligns with the initial goals.
So it's not just about building the AI, it's about making sure it continues to operate responsibly and ethically throughout its entire lifespan.
You got it. You need to have mechanisms in place to detect and address any issues that come up,
Okay.
and to make adjustments as needed to ensure that the AI remains aligned with human values and societal goals.
It sounds like a continuous process of learning and adaptation, both for the AI systems themselves and for the people who create and use them.
Absolutely. AI is a rapidly evolving field, and our understanding of its capabilities and limitations is constantly growing. The key is to remain flexible, open to new information, and committed to using AI in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
Well said. It's clear that this conversation about responsible AI development is far from over.
Yeah, it seems like this AI impact assessment, it's really pushing for a more proactive and dynamic approach to AI governance. We can't just set some rules and then forget about it.
Right.
We need to constantly evaluate and adapt as the technology changes.
Yeah, that's really important. This document isn't meant to be like a set of static rules. It's more like a living framework.
Yeah.
That evolves alongside AI.
Right, because the landscape is constantly shifting. There's no historical precedent for this. So we kind of have to be flexible, willing to adjust course as we go.
And that requires a lot of collaboration between policymakers, researchers, industry leaders, the public even.
Yeah.
We need to constantly be learning from both the successes and the failures of AI implementation.
So it's not just experts in their own little bubbles.
No, not at all.
It's about creating a more inclusive approach to AI governance. I think that's a great way to put it. Everyone needs to have a voice in this, not just the technical experts.
Right, because AI is going to impact all of our lives. So we all have a stake in shaping its future.
Absolutely.
It seems like transparency is a big part of this, too. The more we can demystify AI and make it understandable to everyone, the better equipped we'll be to have these conversations.
Oh, absolutely. We need to move beyond the hype and the fear-mongering. Just present clear and accurate information about what AI can and can't do.
Education and public awareness are key.
They really are.
And speaking of education, the assessment also talks about this need for a multidisciplinary approach to AI development. It's not just about computer science anymore, is it?
It's so much more than that now.
We need to bring in expertise from all these different fields: ethics, philosophy, law, social sciences, even the arts.
Yeah, AI is a human challenge, not just a technical one.
It's like we're assembling a team of AI superheroes, each with their unique set of skills.
I love that analogy.
We need philosophers to grapple with the ethical implications, lawyers to navigate the legal complexities, artists to help us imagine the potential societal impacts.
It's true, we need everyone to make sure AI is used in a way that benefits humanity.
Now, going back to this idea of purpose over pizzazz,
Yeah.
it seems like the Dutch are really pushing developers
Yeah.
to think critically about why they're using AI in the first place. Is AI really the best solution?
Yeah. Is it the most effective?
Are there simpler approaches that might be better?
I think that's a question that gets overlooked a lot
Yeah.
in the excitement of all this new AI tech.
Right.
But this document forces us to step back and consider the big picture.
Are we using AI to actually make a difference? Or are we just using it because it's the cool new thing?
Exactly.
It's about using AI intentionally, making sure it serves us, not the other way around.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that's a message that applies beyond AI. We need to be thoughtful about how we use all technology.
It's about taking responsibility for the tools we create and making sure they're used to make the world a better place.
Well said.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring the idea of responsible AI development and how this Dutch AI impact assessment is trying to guide us towards a more ethical and human-centered approach to this technology.
It's been a great discussion.
Yeah, it really has.
I hope our listeners found it insightful.
And remember, this conversation doesn't end here. Keep learning. Keep asking those big questions.
That's right.
Because ultimately, the future of AI is up to all of us.
Well said. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.